We're going to continue today using or studying form. Now, form of a work is its shape, including its volume or perceived volume. So you start off with shape, the kind of outline of the object that has form in it. So it's its actual volume or physical volume or its perceived volume. In two-dimensional art, you achieve the illusion of form with the use of perspective and also shading or modeling techniques, or adding values into something in order to give it a sense of depth. Actual three-dimensional form has actual width, height, and depth. Now, two-dimensional form will only have actual width and height. There is no actual depth, but there is the illusion of depth through using lights and darks in order to create a sense of depth in an object. In 3D art, of course, has actual depth as well as width and height, and three-dimensional form is the basis of sculpture. So we're going to start off talking about two-dimensional form first. So in two-dimensional form is the shape plus its perceived volume. So if you're looking at the example on the screen now, you have the sphere, and the sphere looks to be sitting in some sort of fairly deep space. So when we first start considering the volume of the sphere in two-dimensional form, we first start off with its shape or its outer edges. That is the kind of birthplace of form. It gives it its boundaries. So then we go to the lights and darks in something, and that becomes the perceived volume. Now, we actually have two dimensions here and not three dimensions here. So I have width and I have height. What I don't have here is actual depth. I only have actual width and actual height. So two-dimensional form has width and height, but the depth is only an illusion. And that is why we call it perceived volume as opposed to actual or physical volume. So the contrast of value allows us to see form in this 2D image. So if we start with our shape right here, it's not the shape that gives it the sense of form, but it's the shape plus the contrast of values. So we have lighter values here, middle values here, darker values here. That allows us to see form in this two-dimensional shape. Now, if we took the contrast of values away, we start flattening out the space. So we lose that sense of depth or that sense of volume. The more objects that we remove the difference of value in, the flatter the space becomes, until ultimately we have no contrast in value. And with no contrast in value, there is no perception of form. We only have a flat space, we can't have form. So no contrast, no perception of form. No contrast, no perceived volume, no form. So here we have the artist Kazuki again. So the blank of blank allows us to see form in this two-dimensional image. So the blank of blank allows us to see form in this two-dimensional image. If you said the contrast of value allows us to see form in this two-dimensional image, you would be absolutely correct. Now, talk about an artist named Giotto who was working about 700 years ago. And he's considered one of the most important artists of the early Renaissance or the late Gothic period. And then one of the reasons why is that he brought volumetric form back to art in the Western world. For about 1,000 years, art was very stylized and very, very flat. And Giotto is known for his naturalism, or the way that he saw things in real life, and he tried to make them look like he saw them in real life. So this is Fides, or faithfulness, from a fresco in the Scrovegni Chapel in Padua, Italy. And what he does, and what he did, was that he brought three-dimensional, a look back to two-dimensional artwork. So, his artwork, Fides, it has width, and it has height, or 2 dimensions, but it has no actual depth in it. It only has the illusion of depth, which is its perceived volume. So, its perceived volume gives it the illusion of depth, and that is its two-dimensional form. Now, Fides lives somewhere right around here on the wall. You can see that this is a flat wall, yet it looks as if there's a sculpture that's in some sort of a sculpted or recessed niche in the wall, and that is a visual illusion, or it fools the eye, and that's called also trompe-l'oeil, but you don't have to really learn that term. I'm just giving it to you for future reference. So, why am I not showing you an example of Egyptian art? You have one on your paper, but you don't have one on the screen. I want you to try and figure out why I'm not using Egyptian art as an example of volumetric form. So, now we will move on to three-dimensional form. So, if two-dimensional form was its shape and its perceived volume, three-dimensional form is its shape plus its physical volume. So, let's consider the woman of Willendorf, who we all know and love. Now, she is an actual physical object. Remember, I passed a facsimile of her around during class, and you can actually physically hold her in your hand. She had weight, she had width, height, and depth. But, like all form, it starts off with shape. So, the woman of Willendorf has boundaries by which she doesn't go past, right? So that is the shape that at any angle that you look at her, there's going to be an outline, and that outline is going to be the shape that you're looking at. So, 3D form is shape plus physical volume, and the woman of Willendorf absolutely had physical volume. And you could hold it in your hand. She had width, she had height, but she also had depth. So, how does the Paleolithic artist at the Altamira Cave use physical volume in this example that's on the screen now? So do you see how the shape plus the physical volume equals the form of the bison? And just for kicks and giggles, is there any perceived volume being used here? And if so, how? Well, that's all that I have for you for the form section. I know it's not the longest. The next section on shape will be a little bit longer. And I hope that you're all doing very, very well. And I appreciate you all very, very much, and I miss seeing you in class.